All right, let's get started. Hello and welcome to Adobe InDesign Create a Business Card. My name is Caitlin Tips, and I will be assisted by my chat facilitators, Hannah and Nova. Please say hi.
Hello, I'm Hannah.
Hello, I'm Nova. Sorry about that.
Today, we will be covering how to set up and design dynamic business cards. This class is meant for intermediate users. However, all skill levels are welcome in this class. We will be using Adobe InDesign to lay out, format all business card components, and add premium printing effects. But there are some free alternatives such as Microsoft Word, Publisher, etc. if you do not have access to InDesign. Currently, Haggard and Davis Library are offering computer reservations on a computer with Adobe Creative Cloud by appointment only. So you can edit your business cards and other projects for free at either of those locations. I have a handout available for this class detailing the components and design elements. Let's get started. So first and foremost, what is Adobe InDesign? It is an industry standard publishing application for print and digital media. It allows ease of access for page layout and web design, and it's useful for all sorts of projects, such as the business card that we will be working on today. So where do you start with your business card? First and foremost, it's important to highlight what kind of style you are trying to create. So the style can be anything that's going to convey your message, your intent to your business. So it's important to decide what you want to do. If you want something that's going to highlight your business and be interactive, or if you simply want a simple style that's going to have all of your pertinent information on it. Secondly, you get into the design aspect, which is how you organize all of your information on that card. And thirdly, when you decide to go into printing effects. These premium business card effects are a lot of fun, and it's important when you decide to add those designs, those elements to your business card that you communicate with your printer. So I would almost say that when you're starting to design a business card, it's important to find a printing service to work with so you can understand from the start how best to set up your business card to meet their printing needs. A lot of printers have guidelines for premium business card effects and other organizational tips. Any questions so far?
Would it be possible at all for you to increase your mic volume? I know onboard mics usually you can't adjust them, but I was just wondering if you'd be able to turn it up at all.
Is this better?
Yes. I'll let you know if the patron says any different, but that sounds better to me.
Excellent. Sorry about that. All right, so some business card styles that we have. So we have your classic style, which flipping back to the first slide, this example right here would be considered a classic style. It would also be considered a minimalist style. So classic is pretty standard. It's also going to be this example here in the corner. Classic is you can't go wrong with just your information available and easy to read. Typographic is playing with typography. So this example here with Tom Lane in the fun playing card style, that's typographic because it plays with different elements of font to make an impression. This card is an example for a graphic designer. So it really highlights the different skills that he has in something you can fit in your pocket. The 3D, or AKA gadget style, is an example of something here in this lower corner. It is an interactive business card, and those can be a lot of fun. They can also be more costly to print. I would recommend that if you're interested in going a 3D route, that you think about the time that you would use that card and how often and what it would be used for. This one in the lower corner, you can see it's got a piece of chocolate in there. So if you're a bakery or you're trying to network your goods, then that might be a useful type of business card to have at a networking event or an expo where you're handing things out. So it has the company information on the top. It has that fun opening component that you open and find an example of your work inside. Now, 3D can also be an example of something that you fold and create into something else. So again, it's all about your desired output. It's all about your desired meaning. Now, minimalist can be very different from classic in the sense that it can actually use elements of the other styles. So it can have a typographic element, but still be minimalist. So an example of that would be taking Anne Campbell on this example and using a fancier font. You can still have very simple elements on your card, but make it more exciting with font, with colors, printing effects. And lastly, you have wild format. Wild format actually refers to the size of your card. Typically, it's something that's out of the norm or it uses different elements. So going back to the other slide, this square shape here would be considered a wild format because it's not your standard 2" by 3.5" business card. Any questions about business card styles?
Nothing yet, but I will keep you posted if someone asks a question in chat.
I appreciate it. All right, now business card components. I find it very important to note that these are just examples of what you can include on your card. You are not required by any means to include every single one of these. In fact, I would highly recommend that you do not use every component listed here. That's because it could, in fact, make your business card harder to read, too busy, and distracting for whoever you're handing out your business card to. So I would say that most important is to have your name, the name of your business or organization, and your contact information. So if it's a small business and you're the owner and there's no job title, just include your name and your contact information. If you have a logo, definitely include your logo. I would say the only time you would need to list services or products is when you have a very specific niche that you are kind of operating within. If you're operating a Etsy store, for instance, for bow ties, then feel free to list different materials used for your bow ties. That's just an example of how to use business card components effectively. Because again, everything that you're doing here is about the output. It's about creating the information that's going to be relevant to those who you're handing your card to. Because you want to create a message that is going to stick in their head so they come back to it later and think, oh, this person does that, I should contact them later. So now this is probably more fun. The premium business card effects. Again, from the start, you really, really want to communicate with your printer on how to best convey these effects that you want for a business card. So this includes shapes, embossing, debossing, foil stamping, matte finish, satin finish, QR codes, colored edges, card materials, typography effects, spot colors, interactive elements. Sounds like a whole lot of words, and they all have different meanings, and sometimes they sound very much the same and can be a bit confusing, which is why it's very important to work with your printer service to convey exactly what you want and that it actually is possible in the combination that you want. For instance, shapes. Not all business card printers will have a wild format shape, or if they do, it could be a premium effect because they have to cut down a larger sheet of paper to meet your desired effect. The same goes for interactive elements such as folding, or in some cases, a printer will have to have an additional staff member who does die cutting. So one of the things I do want to highlight here, embossing and debossing, because those two are often confused. So to emboss is actually occurring in your final printed project, and when a design is pushed upward into the surface to create a textured relief in the above surface. That is different from debossing, because debossing, you are actually pushing the design downward into your design. So one is up, one is down, but they often get very confused in the printing process. So if you're looking for a specific effect, that's again why I highly recommend you communicate everything with your printer for these effects. It's also important to note that all of these effects do come at an additional cost, which if you're printing upwards of 100 to 1,000 business cards can add up. Any questions so far?
I'm perusing chat. Nothing yet, but I will happily interrupt you as soon as I get one.
Thank you. So these are, again, just more examples of premium card effects. You have a fun shape over here with this hexagon, but you also have some fun spot color with the overlays and the tinting of multiple colors. You have some typographic elements going on. Over here, you have an interactive bunny that someone created out of their business card as a fun kind of element to create. They can set it on their desk, and when they look at it, think of the business card. Here you have foil stamping, some debossing and embossing going on, and I would say some typographic elements too. Now, I love this business card down here. It's great for it, a low-cost interactive element that really works well for their business by being a small packet of seeds, but it also has some matte glossy effects going on top. And this lower example here in the corner is, it appears to be wood. I would say it's probably a plastic card that someone chose with a deboss on the type. It could also be a fabric material that's printed in a wood finish that has the debossing effect. All right, so before we jump into InDesign and create our very own business card example, I do want to go over what I consider the key tools in the software. First and foremost is that direct selection tool. So you'll hear me refer to it as simply the black arrow, and that's because this is what we will rinse and repeat to between these other elements most often. The direct selection tool is what allows you to move everything on your page. Otherwise, if you're in the type tool used for typing, or the rectangle frame tool used for graphics, used for importing images, or logos, or just simply having a color background, if you don't switch your tool, you'll end up creating a million different boxes. So always rinse, repeat between whatever other tool you use and go back to your black arrow. Okay, so we're gonna hop into InDesign. Okay, so I have a new document screen pulled up, and things I like to point out is here at the top of this window, you have recent, so you can see recent project sizes saved. You can see any saved sizes that you have, print, web, and mobile. So today we are creating a business card that we are going to print. So I'm going to select that. And because I like to make life easy for myself, they already have a preset US business card style. So this is a standard style. If you were going to do a irregular shape or anything different, you would set up your page very differently. So now we go into our preset details. I'm going to go ahead and label this business card. I want to make sure my units are in inches just because I think that's the easiest for everyone. Now you'll see that facing pages is sometimes selected. For this project, we actually want to deselect that function. Facing pages is really only useful in the software when you're dealing with items that you are binding. So a book, a newsletter, anything like that, you may want to have facing pages selected. Since we are merely focusing on printing front and back, we don't need that selected. I have this preview selected, so with facing pages on, you can see in my background here that if I were to, well, I'm going to increase this to 2 pages anyhow. Let's see if I can highlight that. You can see that there's a spine and it creates it flipping on the spine. I don't need that for this project, so I'm going to deselect it, and then it all goes linear. Okay, now we get into some fun specifics here. We have our margins. I don't need a 1/2 inch margin on a business card. So you may go down to about 1/4 of an inch. I think that's reasonable. You want to make sure that your text and other items, but really your text is far enough away from the edge so you get a good print. You don't want to get it too close and worry about it bleeding off or any effects to go kind of wonky. Now, bleed and slug. Bleed is what you increase your exterior boundary to indicate if you have a colored background or any images going off, you're telling the printer, yes, I really want this image to go all the way to the edge. With this link here selected, if I unbreak it, only adjust one side. I want it on all sides, so I'm going to select that again. And I'm going to have about 1/4 of an inch bleed. That is actually going to make my final print size to be 2 1/4 and 3.75 inches, because they will then cut down that sheet to my standard business card side. So I get that color, that print effect all the way to the edge. Now slug, that is an area that you create on the pasteboard surrounding your design to communicate printing effects, template instructions. Because this document is for a printer, a third-party company, I am okay with creating a slug on this to be about 2 inches, I think. Now it's broken, so I'm going to click this. It's going to adjust that. And you can see that my document has previewed around, kind of like that. So we're going to go ahead and click create. There we are. This red line here is going to be my bleed. And that's actually a bit more than I want. So I can fix that by going up here to File and going to Document Setup. So if you ever accidentally just click Create too soon and you're like, I really want this for my document, you can change that easily. File, Document Setup, and decrease. And if you ever want to increase that again, at the end of your document setup or after your design is finished. Very easy to do. I think I'm zoomed in a little much right now, so I'm going to decrease to 150. And if I scroll to the left, you can see that this blue line here, this space between the blue and red, that indicates my slug. So if I have any specifics that I want to communicate to my printer service, I can type it here. I would just take text tool, click and drag, and I could type printer instructions. And I'll just go ahead and leave that. So we have our page. This is our workspace. We're going to kind of go over that real quick. We have our tools over here on the left, our panels over here on the right. You can adjust everything that you see in your workspace up here at the top with your switcher. I prefer to work with Essentials or Essentials Classic. Essentials takes everything on your workspace and puts it over here on your right. I, however, grew up with Microsoft Word, so I really prefer Essentials Classic, which puts a lot of my tools up here at the top in this top ribbon. So if you're like me and you've used Microsoft Word, if you select the type tool over here, it puts your font up here at the top, and you can switch your paragraph settings by clicking that paragraph icon. I just think it's easier to view, and then it allows you to have all of your necessary panels over here on the right, which you can adjust up here at the top. Under Window, you can open up all of your panels by clicking any of these. So for instance, if I needed stroke for a line, that would go ahead and open it because I have it already over here. Okay, so that's a little bit about your workspace. But getting into the actual business card itself, I want to help people out and help you guys kind of get started off right. So I think it's important to first start with pages. And up here, you see you have pages 1, 2, and up here, a master. So master pages are awesome. They can make your life a lot easier and help you apply attributes really, really quickly to multiple pages. So business cards typically have a front side or a back side. You can keep it single-sided. You can do 2 pages. If you're part of an organization, this is going to be great because it can allow you to apply effects really, really quickly. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, well, that's fine. We can have a 3rd page. To create a new master, you're going to click these lines here in the corner of your panel. That's called a hamburger. So you'll click your hamburger and click new master. It goes alphabetical, so if you really want to change the prefix, you can. I'm just going to keep it at B, and that all looks good to me. I don't have any specifics that I'm changing for that, so I'm going to go ahead and apply it. Now, for A master and B master, what I'm going to do with these is one of them is going to be my preset feature for my front side, and the other is going to be my preset for the back side. So by double clicking this, right now there's nothing on it. By double clicking it, it takes me directly to the page. And oy vey, let me go back here. Ah, okay. I set to normal. Trying to figure out where my margins went wrong. So I don't see margins on my regular page, but if I go back to the master, that is way too white, I think. I think we can go to about here. So I'm gonna go back to document setup, look at my margins again. I'm gonna drop that down. and hit OK. I like that a lot better. Because we're dealing with a smaller size document, we don't have to worry about binding. We don't have to worry about all those other printing elements that could be confused by having a smaller margin. This is not the case, so we have a little bit more wiggle room. I would say if we went half that, that'd be way too close to the edge, but about half of a quarter inch on a business card, you're probably fine. That's an adequate white space there. So as you can see, I still have that text tool selected, and I want this to be my front side. So at this point, if you have a logo, this is where I would say, get that logo on there. Use that and highlight your business that you already have created. I unfortunately don't have a preset logo for this class. But if you don't have a logo already created, or if you're looking to refresh your style or just do something for yourself personally, it's really easy to create something nice and design right on the fly. If you're wanting just a simple monogram, you can do that really, really easily. So for now, I'm just gonna get elements on the page. So with my type tool selected, I'm gonna click and drag to create a box. As you can see, there's font up there. So my initials are CT, and it's not a bad font choice. The serif here is kind of nice. It's a standard font. There's nothing wrong with it. However, if I wanted to be fancier, I could easily highlight all of that text, go up here to font, and see all the fun options. So I do like the serif. I think it lends an element of elegance to the design. But maybe I want something that's a little bit more fancy. So you can either scroll through all of them and they will have a example of what that looks like over here. Or you can actually filter it and say, I only want to see serif. And if you still aren't seeing anything that you like, a fun option would be to use Google Fonts. So Google Fonts is available for free just by going to fonts.google.com. And they have a huge, huge library of open source fonts, some that are variable. And what variable fonts are, you can actually increase the width, height, all components of the font to meet your design needs. I'm gonna go with Bookman, I think. And then I'm going to increase my font. So you can either click the up arrow, you can use your arrows on your keyboard to increase that if you have it selected, and you highlight the text there and use your up and down arrows on your keyboard, you can quickly increase font size that way. Then I'm going to go back to my black arrow and I'm going to adjust that text box there and drag it on the page. So if you see that purple line, that indicates that's the center of my document. And if I drag down, you'll see I can get the middle. Another way to do that is simply by having the align panel open, and you can set it to align to the page and click center and center. So that's a quick way of doing it. You can drag, you can use the align panel, either or. There's no right or wrong way.
Caitlin,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. Would you be able to, at some point, either now or whenever, if we have time at the end, would you be able to maybe download a logo and import it? We have a patron that is interested in that process if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that hard to do. In fact, I can go to a different page real quick because I do think that would be beneficial. As you can see right now, all of my pages created have that A master applied. So I'm going to take B master, apply it to that second page so I have nothing on it. I'm going to go to that master page. So my recommendation is if you have a logo, rather than just file and placing it into your document from the start, use this rectangle frame tool over here on the left. And you can use the square, you can use the circle. You can pull up the options by clicking and holding on that tool for more options. Unless you have a very specific shape, it doesn't matter what you use. So I'm just going to use the standard rectangle, and I'm going to click and drag. It has a nice X through it, and I'm going to use the black arrow to select that rectangle on my page now. I'm going to go ahead and use the align panel to center it, and then file place. So I don't have a logo, but I do have graphics available for import. So just use your imagination, and you can file place by either using file place or keyboard shortcut Control D or Command D if you have a Mac. So we're going to place, and we are going to use this image I have here. As you can see, that's not quite how I wanted it to import. A quick way to fix that is to right-click your image when it imports and go to fitting. And with this, you can play around with it to get the desired fit. You may have to resize it, but I always like to start with fit content proportionally. And then from there, you can click and drag to fit your image as necessary or your logo, or you can actually right-click again and fit frame to content. So it does all the work for you. So if you had a logo, that is how you would insert it into your document. My mother is actually a seamstress, so I actually used this image to help her design a new business card recently for funsies. Does that kind of get them started? Does that answer the question for how to import logos into your business card?
I will keep an eye on chat and let you know if they misunderstood it or if you need to get more details, but so far so good.
Awesome. Okay. So we can come back to that, but hopping back up to pages, we're going to go back to our monogram. So to add on to this effect that we have going here, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. So this one doesn't have an X in it. I typically only use the rectangle frame tool when I'm importing items into it. Otherwise, I just use the regular shape. So for this, I'm actually going to click in my pasteboard area because I'm actually going to have this color go past the edge. So it automatically has a stroke applied, but we can adjust that by going to swatches. And it has a predetermined basic color palette in here. Now, if you have any other projects or your logo, for instance, if you have a logo, you can actually load that in and use this fun tool, the color theme tool, to pick out those items and create a new swatch panel for yourself. What that looks like, just because I know if you are creating and go back here. And with that color selection tool selected, As you can see, it pops up with the blue line around the image. I'm going to click that, and it pops up with a color swatch kind of gradient. You can see different variations on it based on what it's picked up from the image. So that's a really easy way to apply your company's colors without having to go through the color panel and recreate everything. So you can select it, and this icon here adds this theme to swatches. So I'm going to go ahead and click and add that. I'm going to adjust it, and I'm going to add each of these. This one here, it adds it to your library. So if you know that you're going to use this a lot, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and add this to your Creative Cloud library for repeated usage. And then if you go to your swatches panel, you can see it's labeled in folders, colorful theme. Scroll down, bright theme. Scroll down, dark theme. So this is really nice if you're trying to create something simple or use your logo and you want to use consistent colors throughout. So for this, I'll just go ahead and do what I was going to do on the other one. Actually slightly different. Use an ellipse tool. And a fun thing, if you're going to do a circle or if you want something really proportionate, when you click and drag to create your item, you can use the shift key before you click and then drag, and you get a perfect, I released before that. Control Z is your best friend. Control Z undoes everything that you're like, whoops, didn't mean to do that. So shift click, release click, perfect circle, beautiful. Now I'm going to go to my black arrow tool because again, if I were to click off, oh, it wants me to create a new one. I don't mean to do that, or you'll end up swatches. And here we have our fill and our stroke. So these are interchangeable. You can also access this over here on your tool panel. Fill, stroke. So I actually want to use colors from that image, from my logo, to create something fun. So I want a contrasting color that's still within the family. So I'm going to change my fill to, oh, but my circle is not selected, so it doesn't do a thing. So go back to your black arrow, select that circle, and voila, I have a fill. But unfortunately, it's covering up my logo. So what I want to do then is right-click this, go to Arrange, and Send to Back. And then I'm going to adjust it some more by setting the stroke to be, I actually don't need a stroke. So unless you're looking to make it to increase the size of it without increasing the size of the item, which it's just one more step either way. So there's really no reason to have a stroke unless you're doing a contrasting color. I'm going to go back to fill. And I am also going to align this center, center. And I think that that's just not quite enough of the contrast that I'm wanting. So I'm going to go back to swatches, and I'm just going to start playing with colors and realize maybe, maybe that pink, that's too bright. Let's try this. Way too bright. It's very bright, but it's a better contrast than some of the other colors here. So maybe we take the tint and we decrease it a little bit to soften it up. And color is just fun to play with. Yeah, I think that looks nice. I think it picks up on the flower in the center really well. And we can actually create a new SWOT based on that tint. So we can come back to it if we want. So at this point, I would probably add some text. Because there's so much going on in the center, I probably would either cut across it along the bottom, or I would type on the round around the top or bottom. Or I would just leave it like that. Sometimes your icon, your logo does all the work for you, just by having something decorative on the back that is indicative of what your profession is. So by looking at this, you can tell has something to do with clothing design, something to do with that. It kind of gets the message across of what this person is doing. So that's your front side. You can do the same with a monogram. So like I was working here, I'm gonna click that large overset square that I have, and I'm going to go back to swatches, and I'm just gonna steal from that other theme. Hang on. Oh, but I'm on a separate page. I'm not on the master page, which is where I need to be. So click and select, go back to your swatches. Let's go ahead, choose something fun. As you can see, it's on the top layer. So we click, we arrange, we send to back. And I don't like the contrast of the black on that gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on that text, and you can change the color of your font the same way by switching the fill from the outline. And what we're going to do is actually switch it to paper. So an important thing to note is when you are working with any item for print, you are working with CMYK color settings. If your color settings are set to RGB, those are really only recommended for when you're viewing content on your computer screen. CMYK is printer colors. It's that cyan, magenta, your cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So adjusting that is communicating to the printer exactly what you're trying to print. It's the closest that you'll get on the screen in terms of color settings. There's also a way to import Pantone settings if you're looking for a very, very specific print color. But there's no such thing as white. So you don't print just basic white, because paper in its natural form is usually white unless you're doing a color on purple. Now, for instance, now if you're using purple, then you don't have to have a purple ink on top of that. You would still use paper to get the background color. Does what I'm saying make sense so far?
I don't have any questions in chat, but I will let you know if one comes up.
Very cool. All right. Now I'm going back to this rectangle because it has that preset stroke there, and I don't need an outline. So what I'm actually going to do is take that off by selecting none. Now, as you can see, I didn't fill the entirety of the card. I could if I really wanted to, but I actually like that white edge. I think it breaks up the page size. I think it adds more for your eye to kind of play with in terms of color. Again, this is very simple. You could add effects like a diamond polygon is not limited to that preset shape. You can actually indicate the number of sides. So if you wanted a diamond or anything else, you can adjust that. If you were trying to create a star, you could increase that. Excuse me. This is just a fun way to kind of create different effects in InDesign without having to switch over to Illustrator. Now I'm going to adjust with my black arrow, and I'm not going to click Shift because I'm not looking to be super proportionate with this. And then I'm going to rotate. And look, voila, I have a diamond. And I actually already kind of like that color preset. Now, what I don't like is how this is naturally going to a square. But you can adjust that by it's not a big deal. We'll copy and paste it a couple times. So you can make kind of fun effects by staggering this. You could tessellate this if you really wanted. InDesign is vector-based, so it's going to pop up with a lot of those fun green lines that help you do things proportionately. So you can create a lot of fun things within the software itself. You can import things from other softwares. The sky's the limit. This is just helping you visualize things on a page to show you, oh, I can adjust things as I need to. All right, now we've kind of gone over how to get things on your front side, the back side of your business card, whichever way you want to look at it. So let's actually switch to the components, adding in our elements and such. So let's go back to pages. As you can see, I have that A master already applied. We don't need that, so we're going to take none. Click none, drag it to that third page. We're going to take that off. And instead, we're going to go ahead and add a C master, because on this third master page, what we're going to do is add in where we want our components to be. And again, the reason why I would recommend always using your master pages is you can mock up several different versions of things, from your front pages to your basic components. So for this, I'm not going to add any graphics. I am simply going to use the text tool and type. I'm going to use this last corner here. First name or first last name.
Caitlin, I have a question for you whenever you get a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to circle back to the business card you designed with the diamonds on there? And would you be able to show where someone would go to change the color of the diamonds? Like you click on the diamond and then you click on a swatch?
Of course. Awesome. So we created a diamond, right? Black arrow tool. Make sure you're selecting the diamond that you want to change the color of. And you can either go to swatches where you have pre-selected colors and you can click what those are. If you're just wanting to change the stroke, you can change the stroke. If you're wanting to change the fill of one, make sure you have fill selected. And again, sky's the limit, world's your oyster. You can change the fill that way. If you're wanting to play with color more, you can actually go here, use that, play with it, and choose a different gradient. If that's not how you're wanting to view color, you can actually click the hamburger, change it to CMYK, and you can click and drag different gradients, add more yellow, or if you're wanting a very specific value, you can click and type it in there. So if you already have your Pantone numbers picked out, this is where you can go in and type it. Does that help?
So far, so good. I will let you know if they need some more info.
Yeah, very cool. It's a good question. Okay, going back to our components though, because this is the meat of it. This is where folks will refer to remember what your name is, how to contact you, etc. We want to make sure we're typing what we have here. We're going to click underneath, or you could actually black arrow, highlight this, copy, paste. That way you don't have to worry about resetting font or anything. So here we can do position, title, and I actually want that to be, well, I'm going to choose a different font for my purposes. We're going to do open sans. Oh, but my filter is limiting my font, so we're going to make sure that's unselected. Control. Just so we get more effects. As you can see, there's all sorts of different fonts with different font options. So we're going to do, for that, I'm going to go ahead and go with light, position title, open sans, and we are going to switch to italic, and the regular looks bold compared to that. And then black arrow, highlight the first, copy, paste. And those are the keyboard shortcuts, Control C, Control V. And underneath here, we're going to do number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 for our phone number. And we'll do an email underneath that. We'll just paste again. And what I really like about InDesign is, again, those green lines that pop up that tell me, oh, you are lining up all of your boxes appropriately. And you also have equal distance between them when you see those 2 lines in between for spacing over those lines appeared here. And then double click and I can do email@email.com. And that text box wasn't quite long enough. I have that red arrow that indicates some overset text. So I'm going to click, drag to the right, and voila, it all fits. And what this does is when you go and you apply the C master to page 3, is you click and voila, it's already there. So you have multiple employees and you want to create a stylistically consistent business card, you can now create new pages and not have to recreate the wheel. All you would have to do then is select your desired page. Because this is a master page element, you have to Control-Shift-Click in order to edit that text box. And you can do, then I'll do my name, and you have to Control-Shift-Click for all those elements. But the beautiful thing about it is this doesn't change anything on the other pages. And you just have the same consistent text boxes with the font already applied that you can then change individually on those pages. So it saves you a lot of time in terms of setting up new pages and editing items. And then if you want to add graphic design elements, this is also a good way to play with that without messing up your components. So if you wanted to add a logo or just a different variation of your organization's title, you have all this other space on your page here to mess around with. Now, some of those premium printing effects that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that's a little bit more complicated in terms of setup. I'm going to show you one way of doing that real quick before we run out of time, just because I do think it's valuable to know how you accomplish that. So I'm going to go ahead and use that page B as my example for that, because I'm going to say that I want this pink here to be printed with a matte finish. Just for instance, let's say that I'm going to add a stroke back into it and have that print with maybe a glossy satin finish. So that's not an effect that you add directly to your document. So this is something you can either do yourself or your printer will do. So going back to swatches, going back here, I'm just going to click that pink, and I'm going to say that that's what I want to print with a fun effect. Or if you wanted foil stamping or anything else like that, it's the same principle what I'm about to show you. So you're going to go up to layers, and you're actually going to use this plus sign to create a new layer. We're going to double click it, and we're going to rename it Spot Color Varnish. In parentheses, we're going to say that this is glossy. Okay. And because you don't want your spot layer to be viewed, we're going to move layer 1 back to the top, because this indicates the order of preference for your printer. So it's like laying layers of plastic on top of each other. This red layer would be the last to be viewed. Because the spot color layer is actually not something that we want to print. It's a printing effect for a very specific element. So what we're going to do is then copy that circle and then select that layer, and we are going to paste. And as you can see, the outer area of the frame changed color to match that layer. So previously it was blue because it was layer 1. Now it is red because it's on this spot color varnish layer. Now what I want to do is actually go to swatches, and you can use any color, but I would highly recommend using a color different from what's actually on your design. So I'm going to choose this bright cyan, and I'm going to change the fill of it to match. And I'm actually going to go here to new swatch, and I'm going to double click and change the color type from process to spot and name it cyan spot color. So if you go to your layers, and my computer's just being a little slow, sorry about that. You can actually turn off the layer and see that that changed. So we're going to turn that back on. And because what we're doing is we are turning this layer into an overlay, and that's communicating to your printer that this is a glossy effect that you're looking for. Now, if you just wanted the stroke of the circle to have that effect, you'd go back to the circle, go back to your swatches, and for the fill, indicate none. And that would make sure that only your stroke around the circle, that line surrounding it, gets that premium effect. Does that make sense to everyone? And you can do that for foil stamping. You can do that for the matte and satin finish. You can do that for pretty much any effect that I had listed there in the PowerPoint that is based on printing. But it's always, always, always a good idea to check with your printer. And then you can indicate over here in your slug that we set up in the beginning of the class that you have premium effects indicated on X layer. Okay. Just to showcase a couple more, I made these examples earlier. So this is an example of some text that you can do over here. Going up to pages, you can see, again, you can mess around with things. On this page, I have a spot color varnish matte to have a matte finish on the white. And I have different variations of the components, one with a company name along the top and the larger in the center. Again, these are not highly interactive ones. You can really dive deep into the process of how to create all this. You can let your imagination run wild. But today I really just wanted to help everyone get started and know that you don't have to use a template through another service. There are a lot of different printers online and in person. And so it's really important that if you're going the route of self-designing, that you communicate what you want and you work with your printer, because all they want to do is make sure that you're getting the quality print that you want. So I think we're about out of time, but are there any last questions that we have? This class will be recorded and posted to YouTube at a later date. And if you do have any more questions or any technical questions about how any of this works, feel free to shoot me an email at caitlint@plano.gov. I am more than happy to answer any technical questions. If you feel like you need a more hands-on assistance with this, we can also help you with a book librarian session. So thank you all for attending today's class. So happy that you guys attended, participated. Last call for questions.
No questions here. Thank you guys so much for attending.